Have a good weekend, too. Gotta go. Here's CBS.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rattle reporting. Good evening. New shockwaves hit the Reagan Inner Circle and Campaign 88. A former top aide to President Reagan in the U.S. missiles to the Ayatollah wheeling and dealing today copped a plea. President Reagan's former National Security Advisor, Robert McFarlane, pleaded guilty to purposely reduced criminal charges. McFarlane reported he now will help an independent special prosecutor's criminal investigation of other key players. Bob Dole said during his struggling to survive campaign in Illinois today that George Bush is vulnerable with voters for giving conflicting accounts of his own role. Correspondent Rita Baker begins our coverage of the latest in the still unfolding story of where the money went, who got the cash, who covered up, and who broke the law.
Robert McFarlane, once President Reagan's top advisor on national security, today pleaded guilty to 4 criminal counts of withholding information from Congress. 3 of the counts involve false statements in letters McFarlane wrote to Congress claiming that National Security Council staffers, including Colonel Oliver North, were not involved in illegal aid to the Contras. For example, McFarlane told the House Intelligence Committee Lieutenant Colonel North did not use his influence to facilitate the movement of supplies. But today, McFarlane admitted that he knew and believed that North was in fact helping. And he also admitted that he lied when he told Congress he had no concrete knowledge of whether a third country, said to be Saudi Arabia, was funneling money to the Contras.
I did indeed withhold information from the Congress. My actions were motivated by what I believed was in the best foreign policy interest of the United States.
McFarlane faces up to 4 years in jail and $400,000 in fines. He could have been charged with more serious offenses, but was not because of his willingness to help the prosecution and his suicide attempt.
Also takes into account his undisguised demonstration of remorse after the false testimony was given, in which he tried to correct his testimony and actually imposed injury on himself in a fit of depression.
CBS News asked Oliver North for his response to McFarlane's plea.
I wouldn't comment about Mr. McFarlane, but as I think I told you once before, this Marine is never going to plead guilty to any charge, and I'll fight this or any other allegations of misconduct forever.
In fact, North will get his chance to fight. Indictments of him, as well as former National Security Advisor John Poindexter, arms merchant Richard Secord, and money man Albert Hakim are expected within the next few weeks, Dan.
Thanks, Rita. Standing by at the White House now, correspondent Bill Plant with more on the fallout and reaction there to today's guilty plea to criminal charges by one of Mr. Reagan's former top aides. Bill?
Dan, Bud McFarlane's plea today reopens the Iran-Contra scandal, the most difficult and painful episode of the entire Reagan administration. That is something that Mr. Reagan and the White House staff certainly do not relish. What's more, people close to the President and the First Lady say that there's a lot of personal anguish involved. Though Mr. Reagan wouldn't comment today, a White House official said that, quote, the President believes Bud is a good and decent man. Bud is very much in the President's prayers. Secretary of State Schultz was also quick to support McFarlane.
I have felt and continue to feel he's a person to be held in very high esteem. Bud McFarlane continues to have my strong friendship.
Sources say that beyond the President's concern for the people involved, he is angry about the prosecutions arising out of the Iran-Contra scandal, because in Ronald Reagan's view, it's all part of what he recently called a lynch mob atmosphere. The White House is now faced with the prospect of new indictments coming during the run-up to the U.S.-Soviet summit and criminal trials coming during the presidential election campaign. It's not a happy picture for the President or the Republican Party. Dan?
Bill Plant at the White House, thank you. The possible resurfacing of questions about what George Bush did or didn't do and did and didn't say during the secret sending of U.S. arms to Iran were incorporated into the backdrop today for Bob Dole's campaign, a campaign that Dole himself says is hanging on by the fingernails through Tuesday's Illinois primary. Bob Schieffer is covering the Celebrating Bush campaign and what Bush and his staff see as the last days of a domed Dole.
It's part of our staff cutback.
Got one car left. We have to shuttle people.
He's running way behind in the polls. He knows now his chances are a long shot at best. But Bob Dole can still crack a joke, and he's decided to hang in the race at least through next week's Illinois primary. He'll do it by stepping up the attack on George Bush.
If we could just discuss the issues in one state, it's a good place to start. I will win.
At every stop now, he urges Bush to debate. He's even rented a hall near the place where Bush is speaking tomorrow, hoping Bush will meet him face to face.
I dare him to debate me. I dare him, challenge him. I dare him to debate me. He might win. I might get wiped out.
Bush has been crisscrossing the state with a huge entourage of Secret Service agents, and today even that drew the needle from Dole.
I've already saved the taxpayers $1 million. I turned down Secret Service. I don't need them. I've got a good voting record. So, you know.
Good to see you. How are you, sir? Bush, who is running well ahead here, is having none of it, of course, and he is campaigning hard.
We're going to try to win as big in the land of Lincoln as we did in the land of Cotton.
He is also doing his best to ignore Dole.
I'm not going to try to get into that Dole campaign story at all.
But with Bush's big lead in the polls, Dole's only real chance now may be the possibility of new and embarrassing developments for the administration growing out of the newly revived Iran-Contra affair.
There will be other indictments, I understand. It is going to revive that whole issue again. And I've said from the start it's not going to go away.
And in one last effort to draw the vice president into a discussion of that and other issues, Dole is buying 1/2 hour of Chicago television time tomorrow night. He said today he will invite the vice president to join him for a debate on that television program. The vice president accepts, of course. It will be the most surprising development of this political year. Dan.
Bob Schieffer. The meeting Bob Dole took Super Tuesday isn't the only source of Dole's campaign trouble. Our national affairs correspondent Leslie Stahl has been looking into Dole's deep money, media, and organization crunch. Leslie?
Dan, the Dole strategy in Illinois was to argue that George Bush was not electable. Ads on that subject were set to go last night, but the rug was pulled out from under that strategy, and the Dole campaign nearly collapsed.
It happened yesterday when USA Today ran a banner headline about its poll showing just the opposite.
Bush beats all Democrats in November.
That obliterated Dole's central message on the stump.
Electability is going to be a big, big factor. We don't want to lose the White House by nominating the wrong candidate.
All the electability ads were pulled yesterday, and campaign sources say Dole is no longer figuring out how to win, but how to bow out gracefully. The latest decision is to use the period between now and Tuesday to rehabilitate his good guy image by running ads that portray Dole as a strong, decent human being. There'll be no negative anti-Bush spots.
A strong man with a record of solving tough problems. Bob Dole for president.
A major problem is money. It's not that Dole's run out of it. He still has $1.8 million, but he's almost reached the federal campaign spending limit.
Essentially what's happened here is that as a result of overhead and a failure to really target on these states, they've spent too much money too early and now may not have the money to recover.
Sources tell me that the Dole campaign is calling Republicans around the country asking for advice. Dole does not want to be seen as a quitter, especially since he just went to the hospital where he recovered from his war injuries and said he wouldn't quit. Dan?
Leslie, what if Dole stays in and loses Tuesday?
Well, what he's being advised to do in that case is set up a shell operation to just keep his campaign officially alive, then just wait and see if Bush is politically injured by the expected Iran-Contra indictments. And then if he is, Dole can go to the convention with his improved positive image and offer himself as an alternative.
Thanks, Leslie. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Gary Hart is out again. He withdrew from the Democratic presidential race today after failing to win a single convention delegate from Iowa through Super Tuesday. The Federal Election Commission said Hart was no longer eligible for campaign matching funds. It is impossible to measure the pain and shock caused by television preacher Jimmy Swaggart's admission to moral failure with a prostitute. But the financial cost is something that can be counted, and that has Swaggart's worldwide ministries in deep trouble. Bruce Hall explains just how deep.
The troubled Jimmy Swaggart Ministries is facing what officials say is a life-or-death financial crisis. The television evangelist temporarily stepped down 3 weeks ago after confessing to sexual sins. Now his wife and son have taped an emotional plea for Sunday's broadcast, saying the faithful must contribute more if the ministry is to survive.
Our backs are against the wall, and if you don't respond, this telecast is going to have to go off of the air.
Folks, we've given our lives for this ministry. We've given everything we have to give. We need you.
Swaggart is not on Sunday's show. However, he talked directly to his followers on today's program, despite orders from his Assemblies of God church to stay out of the pulpit.
We love you so much, more today than we've ever loved you before.
In the 3 weeks since Swaggart stepped down, donations have dropped, television programs have been canceled, and ministry construction projects stopped. The Swaggart ministry is discovering it may be impossible to continue without the well-known television evangelist in the pulpit.
If he has huge debts, if he has obligations for television time that has to be met, then he could be in serious trouble. But he has to raise large amounts of money to keep his ministry going.
And there are more troubles on the horizon. The National Assemblies of God Church will decide Jimmy Swaggart's fate and the length of his suspension from the pulpit later this month. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Atlanta.
In Washington today, some 2,500 jubilant Gallaudet students and their supporters rallied on Capitol Hill after forcing the resignation of the newly named president at the School for the Deaf. Elizabeth Ann Zinser, who is not deaf and does not know sign language, gracefully resigned last night after being named to the post Sunday. Students who demanded a non-hearing president shut the school down all week with their protest. Today, they vowed to press for other demands. Still to come on the CBS Evening News, Anthony Mason on the violent world of Israel's West Bank. The 50th anniversary of Hitler's takeover of Austria, the beginning of the dark rumble into World War II. And the anniversary, too, of a news program that started that day, the World News Roundup.
Walter, this is Mother. Mother, Walter wants to use the phone.
Fine, right there.
Second-class phones, they're making second-class phones.
Oh, that silly phone. Use our AT&T phone in there.
For phones that work like phones are supposed to work, stick with the first-class phones of AT&T.
It's okay. It works.
For Post Natural Brand Flakes, Lena Horne on getting the best out of life.
Taking care of my voice, body, and taste buds is what keeps the brass in this horn.
Reach for the best-tasting high-fiber Brand Flake. Post Brand Flakes at their best.
If you're concerned about heart disease and your doctor advises exercise, the right foods, and an aspirin a day, you should know that heart specialists recommend
Ecotrin more than Bayer when they're concerned about aspirin irritation because it's safety-coated. Ecotrin, the one heart specialists recommend.
You're ready to sell your house? Call Coldwell Banker. We don't just tell you we'll do everything we can to find you a buyer. We guarantee we'll use 18 proven marketing techniques to sell your home. We guarantee it in writing. And we wouldn't give you that guarantee if we weren't confident of one thing. Coldwell Banker. Expect the best. We guarantee it. A member of the Sears Financial Network.
The United Nations got the official word today. President Reagan is closing down the PLO's observer mission at the UN on orders from Congress, and despite protests from his own State Department. UN Secretary General Perez de Cuellar said the shutdown violates the agreement that established UN headquarters in New York, and he's considering legal action. This was another day of battles between Israeli troops and stone-throwing Palestinians in the Israeli-occupied territories. 9 Arabs were wounded. While the army battles protesters by day, Anthony Mason reports Jewish settlers are clashing with Palestinians by night.
Jewish settlers on patrol in the Arab city of Hebron this morning. A moment of calm after a night of violence. And then it starts again. From behind a wall, young Arabs hurl stones. A young settler answers with indiscriminate gunfire. until he realizes the CBS camera is watching. The settlers are Israel's cowboys. Armed posses sometimes escort buses through Arab neighborhoods. If attacked, they retaliate. This week, settlers burned an Arab car and beat up its driver. Last month, 2 Palestinian teenagers were killed by settlers' guns.
This is not the Wild West, this is the Wild East.
Like America's pioneers, settlers have learned they must defend their land and themselves. 70 miles north of Hebron, a settler breaks ground. Another foundation for another house in another settlement. Within sight of an Arab village, Yossi and Ahuva Shiloh are staking Israel's claim to the land they call Samaria.
Israel needs people here, I mean Jewish people here, if we like them to maintain these areas in Jewish hands, we have to live here.
10 years ago, there were only 24 settlements across the West Bank. Today, there are more than 120. 70,000 Israeli settlers living in the land of the Palestinian uprising. These people may well be the greatest obstacle to any Schultz peace initiative, although some in the government would be willing to give up Gaza and the West Bank. The rapid expansion of settlements may have made that politically impossible. Their religion, their history is rooted in this land. Successive governments have encouraged them to settle here.
You can feel that it's a part of Israel.
But leaving the land may become the price of peace. It's a price many will be unwilling to pay. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Hebron.
Investigators say it may be the first drug-related crash in U.S. commercial aviation history. 9 of 17 people aboard a Continental commuter turboprop died last January when it plowed into the snowy crest of a hill near Durango, Colorado. Survivors, noting the crystal-clear night, wondered why a plane crashed in perfect weather. Well, today, officials said cocaine was found in the blood of pilot Stephen Silver, who died in the crash. But investigators declined to say if that level of cocaine could have actually impaired the pilot's judgment. The government today said that declines in food and energy prices last month sent wholesale prices tumbling 0.2%. In another report, the Commerce Department said retail sales rose 0.6% in February. Another indication October's stock market crash is not cutting much into consumer buying.
Recently, 12 new cars were chosen to compete for the Motor Trend Import Car of the Year award. When the results were in, the top 3 places were won by Honda. CRX SI, Civic, and Prelude. Who says it's lonely at the top?
In honor of Scope Peppermint's first birthday,
Happy birthday, True Blue.
we're giving you the chance to win the gift.
Happy birthday, True Blue.
You could win sapphire jewelry worth thousands of dollars, service for 8 of fine china, crystal glassware, and more.
Happy birthday, icy powerful fresh peppermint True Blue Scope.
Look for the True Blue Birthday Sweepstakes where you buy Scope.
Happy birthday,
You could win
True Blue.
if you don't blow it.
I just got dentures, but it hasn't slowed me down.
Second me to 45, want to hear 45, 45.
Fixodent and forget it. Fixodent helps fix loose spots for a strong hold that lasts longer than any leading cream.
Two, I hear 25, want to hear 25, 25.
Use Fixodent and forget it.
Excuse me.
No problem. We know about Kaopectate too.
Kaopectate actually absorbs the germs that can cause diarrhea.
Kaopectate, thanks. The diarrhea specialist.
President Reagan greased the skids today for Manuel Noriega with a series of economic sanctions designed to force Panama's military ruler out of power. Topping the list, the United States is withholding payments owed to the Panamanian government, including $6.5 million due next week for the Panama Canal. With Panamanians already gasping for cash, the Noriega regime imposed a price freeze today on some food staples, such as milk and flour. A mass demonstration against Noriega never got off the ground. His soldiers had no trouble dispersing the handful of protesters who did show up. There were memorial services throughout Austria today to mark a painful anniversary. It was on this date, half a century ago, that Hitler's army marched into Austria and made it part of Nazi Germany and its brutal history. Doug Tennell was there today as Austrians remembered, with sadness and shame, a past most would rather forget.
Vienna today. Ironically, Austria began to commemorate the day it was annexed by Nazi Germany with a solemn military ceremony in a square where Hitler once drew a crowd of thousands. There was nothing solemn about the Anschluss then, as Edward R. Murrow reported.
Many people are in holiday mood. They lift the right arm a little higher here than in Berlin, and the Heil Hitler is said a little more loudly.
What many here like to remember is that Austria was once called Hitler's first victim. What many forget is that for 7 years it was also an enthusiastic accomplice.
If a human person tries to forget 7 years of his life, it will be a sick person. If a country tries to forget 7 years of his history, it will be a sick country.
It's doubtful that this anniversary would be an international event if Kurt Waldheim were not the president of Austria today. The shadow over Waldheim's past is forcing Austrians to face up to the war years many would like to forget. Kurt Waldheim was just 19 years old when the first Nazi troops arrived. Today, as the president of Austria, he sat silently through a remembrance service in Parliament. It was decided Waldheim would not speak here. Austrian TV's coverage cut from the national anthem to scenes from Nazi death camps that many Austrians have tried for years to ignore.
Even a father or a mother would just refuse to answer questions like, "Ma, did you know anything about the Holocaust?"
On street corners and beside the city's war memorials today, small groups could be found just talking, filling in the gaps in a nation's collective memory.
This dealing with the past should go on. There is no future for a country without learning from the history.
But tragically, some here refuse to learn. Just this week, workers had to clean Vienna's memorial to the victims of fascism after vandals painted it with swastikas. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Vienna.
At Citicorp, we believe it takes people with vision to help people with dreams. So many of our people come from fields beyond banking. Untypical bankers, untypical thinking has made us America's largest financial services company. As Citicorp and Citibank, we're already helping 1 in 5 American families. We'd like you to get to know us better. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
Painful conditions are a fact of life in a modern hospital. And when it comes to relieving everyday pain, the overwhelming choice of hospitals is Tylenol. Tylenol is clinically proven effective for all kinds of pain. That's a medical fact. And there's another important thing you should know. Hospitals can trust Tylenol not to irritate your stomach. In fact, unlike aspirin or even ibuprofen, Tylenol is so easy on your stomach, most ulcer patients can use it. Tylenol. It's tough on pain, easy on your stomach.
How long does a John Deere last?
How long does a John Deere last? How long does a John Deere last? Well, that's a good question.
Where does it hurt?
Here.
For indigestion, heartburn, and gas, nobody does as much as Malox Plus. Dose for dose, it neutralizes more than any regular strength antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as Malox Plus.
Echoes of Austria. Before there was television, there was radio, and before there was the CBS Evening News on television, there was CBS Radio's world-famous World News Roundup, which went on the air for the first time 50 years ago Sunday, and is the longest-running news broadcast in history. The awful event commemorated in Austria today was the centerpiece of that first broadcast.
This is Bob Trout speaking to you from New York, opening Columbia's shortwave transatlantic program to cover the key cities of Europe.
It was a Sunday evening half a century ago, and for the first time, Wherever there was a radio, you could hear the words of impending crisis.
Event has crowded upon event in tumultuous Austria. Meanwhile, the outside world, gravely shaken by the Austrian crisis, moves cautiously through a maze of diplomatic perils.
Bob Trout anchored the very first World News Roundup. Live reports from correspondents on the scene where news was happening. Something now very much taken for granted. But in 1938, it was nothing short of miraculous. And as the United States moved into World War II, Edward R. Murrow was there to report for the Roundup. Here he is describing what it was like to be aboard an American bomber over Berlin.
I began to see what was happening to Berlin. The clouds were gone, and the sticks of incendiaries from the preceding waves made the place look like a badly laid out city with the streetlights on. The small incendiaries were going down like a fistful of white rice thrown on a piece of black velvet. And I was very frightened.
During D-Day, Charles Collingwood reported for the Roundup, one of the first recorded on-scene accounts ever made.
The beach is lined with men and materials and guns, trucks, vehicles of all kinds. On either side of us, there are pillars of smoke, perhaps a mile, 2 miles away, which is rising from enemy shelling.
By 1968, the World News Roundup was 30 years old, and there was another war, Vietnam, and the correspondent was Walter Cronkite.
The battle for Hue has taken an odd turn here. I still hope that in a day or 2 or 3 days, the Marines will have cleared that section across the Perfume River in the Citadel.
Morning, Dallas. Have a seat.
Throughout its history, the World News Roundup has been identified largely with correspondent Dallas Townsend, who anchored the newscast for 25 years.
Late winter blizzard.
This morning, Townsend was in the studio listening as current anchorman Bill Lynch began another newscast.
Good morning, Bill Lynch with the CBS World News Roundup. This week counting down to our 50th anniversary.
At 50, it's middle-aged, but it's brand new every morning. And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. Bob Schieffer will be here tomorrow, and I'll see you Monday. Good night.
Day after day, more people depend on Subaru wagons than any imported wagon in America. And with good reason. They're reliable and durable. In fact, if Subaru didn't make your life easier...
Honey, is dinner ready?
Who would? Subaru. We built our reputation by building a better car.
Mom sure made life easier. Mine did. Like another mom, Phillips Milk of Magnesia. Phillips Mom helps your body work naturally for easy overnight relief. Even has this convenient dosage cup. Nobody treats you better than Mom.
Fixing this water damage will cost $1,200. Could I have prevented it?
You could. Thompson's Water Seal protects wood, brick, and concrete with its special waterproofing formula. Thompson's Water Seal, a great defense against repair expense.
Mom, hi. Listen to this. Well, of course you hardly hear anything. It's my new Whirlpool dishwasher. Yes, it's on. Oh, it cleans great. Everything just gleams. And it's so quiet, we won't have to shout anymore. Mom, what's all that noise? Oh, it's your dishwasher.
We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool.
This is CBS.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, as the arrests continue in Metro's sex sting, we'll look at what motivates some men to seek out sex with young boys. And we'll tell you why some people are worried about Murfreesboro's water supply. These stories plus a ruling that may outlaw bingo next on Eyewitness News.
I'm an easy guy to satisfy, I only want the best. Sierra is the pickup designed to pass the test.